exactly what it is. So would you use your hands to delineate exactly where your camera frame starts and stops? Would you do that for me? Go ahead. Show me where your camera frame starts and stops. Yeah. Now I see a couple of folks with their cameras open. Where's everybody else? Come on now. Come on now. Don't just sit there and listen, because you and I both know that you want an interactive workshop. I'm about to give you an interactive workshop. Let's have a lot of fun. You're going to learn so much more by doing. Yeah. Good. Now, for those of you who can, back up a little bit and now show me how much your camera lens allows. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? This is huge. Now, just by backing up, we gain this much space, right? I can't even reach the frame that I can see. So imagine how much space you gain when you back up. It's that simple. I'm sure there's a mathematical formula to it, but I'm a fine arts guy. I don't know the math, but I bet some of you do. So if I'm this big here, watch what happens once I get closer. Oops. Oops. You see what I'm saying, right? You see what you know exactly what I'm saying. You know exactly. Deepa knows what I'm saying. So if we are this big up close, we don't see anything. Our hands, they're off screen. Hello. So we got to bring him on stage. We got to bring him on. If we want to get big, we want to go back. If we're in tight, notice I had to take off my glasses. I know those of you with glasses, you got something to worry about, don't you? Like, I'm in close, I'm in far, I can't see. Oh my gosh. What are you going to do? I have to get a special pair of glasses so that I can see mid-distance. Something for you to think about if that's what you want. But when we're in this close, the camera picks up every detail. Every detail. Every detail. Now I know what you're thinking, Sindhu. You're thinking, well, Furzy, we don't all have these giant caterpillar eyebrows like you do. Yeah, but we still see the eyes. I can look back at some of the videos that I did for practice for the World Championships, and I can see my eyes dart to the side to look at my clock because I timed myself. I could see where I went just for a little bit, just to see, am I at 6 minutes? Doot, you know, so the audience will see all of that, every little detail. Kind of like, Reina, kind of like when you're trying to keep your husband's attention and he glances over at the cricket match. Yes, dear, I'm paying attention. Whoa! Right? So we want to make sure that the audience is seeing everything that we want them to see. And hear everything that we want them to see and hear. You can hear my voice, can't you? And it's like it's whispering. Not a creepy whispering like, hello, Clarice. No, nothing like that. But it's a softer voice. Because when you're in this close, Vicky, when we're in this close, we can't go, hey, how are you? Right? Because that kind of sounds like your mother-in-law. You know what I'm saying? It's a little much. It's just a little much. Okay. Yeah. Sujata, I noticed you laughing that mother-in-law joke. Come on, man. Be careful. She might be next door. Okay, so here's the deal. We're going to be talking about our physicality. We're going to be talking about our voice. We're even going to be talking about some digital. Because everything here is about what the audience sees from your presentation or performance or competition piece, any of those, on a digital platform. So let's realize, first of all, that everything comes through a camera. And everything we do has to be rehearsed. And everything we do has to be something that we've probably done before. Because if you haven't rehearsed it before, like, the audience sees it. On stage, we can cheat. On stage, we are forgiven little things. But on camera, everything is amplified. Everything is magnified. So every little thing you do, like, you saw that. You saw it huge. My ear is like this big. So on stage, I could like that, and it's easy. Here, and you get a whole side of my face. So we have to realize that. You have to rehearse everything. You have to understand exactly where everything is. You have to understand that when your hand gets closer to the camera, look at it. It's huge. It's huge. Ah! So we can't just reach for the camera like we would in real life. Make sense? We have to understand that the camera sees things differently. And the microphone, whichever kind of microphone you use, hears things differently. If you get a body mic, okay, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? If it's a body mic or if it's a mic lapel that's down here, no matter how far away I get, it sounds the same because the microphone is right here. But if the microphone is on my computer, then the further away I go, the softer it gets, doesn't it? The softer it gets, the further away I go. And the more you hear the room, right? The further away I go from you, the more you hear the room echoing the sound. So you have to decide what kind of camera you want and what kind of sound you have and how do you adjust accordingly. Me, I like the camera on my computer. It's very good. It's good enough for what I want. Me, I like the microphone on my computer. I'm used to it. I can adjust my volume. To me, I think it's strange that somebody walks away from me and they sound the same. That's weird to me. Totally up to you. You have to decide what fits your needs. Does that make sense, Raminder? It works. It has to work for you. It can't be something that is odd. So decide what kind of camera, decide what kind of microphone. Is it attached to you? Is it at the thing? Is it hanging from overhead? You can do that, you know. You can get a microphone, hang it from overhead just out of range, and from this distance, a couple of meters away, that microphone is going to pick you up approximately the same distance. Raphael, does that make sense? Does that work for you? So these are some of the elements that we want to play with. These are the different variables. Okay, let's get warmed up. What I'd like to do is invite you to go ahead and stand up. All right, so even those of you that don't have your cameras on, go ahead, stand up. Let's get warmed up. When we, and it's right at this point in the workshop that we see everybody's belly button. Woo, okay. So, I know. It's like, dude, you forgot. You don't have pants on. Put something on. Turn off your camera. Okay, so here's what we're going to do first. I want you to take your heads and I want you just to roll them gently. One direction. And now the other direction. Good. We do that just so we can videotape you looking like you're possessed and crazy. No, sorry. Yeah. I mean, without hair, it's one thing. Those of you with hair, it's like, it's like, that's like people who haven't had coffee yet. Okay. So drink some more coffee. So one of the things I was doing there was just reminding you that your head moves. It's amazing how many people forget that their head moves. Their head moves. But when they're on camera, they're like, okay, I'm right here and I'm not going to move. Well, that's really kind of strange. So our heads move. Now I want you to take your head and point it that direction. And back. And now that direction. And back. You'll notice how that's different, yes? That's different from this. This, your eyes are ahead almost the whole way. This, your eyes are darting from one side to the next. Our heads move in different direction. In what way do you need your head to move? Now, will you use all of this in one speech? No. I'm just bringing to you all the possible tools you could have. You may not need them for this particular project. I'm just bringing to you all the spices that you could cook with. You don't have to put them all in one soup. Fair enough? Okay, I know people go, how am I supposed to use all that? You don't. You use it one at a time, man. You don't have to put cinnamon in every soup that you make. Okay, here's another thing we're gonna do. Okay, no, you guys sat down. We're not sitting down yet. Come on now, come on now. Okay. So watch my head on this one. My head now, I want you to tilt it forward. Good, now tilt it back. Excellent. Now here's what I want you to do. I want you to tilt forward, but keep your eyes up. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Reminder, this is you're doing exactly what I think I would be doing. And that's when your kid looks at you and says, I didn't do it because the dog ate my homework. And you're like, really? Yeah. So there are so many things we can do with our head and our eyes that we don't even think about. And they may not read in a live audience, but here we can go tilt, look up. Right? Like we're sharing a secret. Does that make sense, Vicky? You lean forward into your audience, look to your right, look straight at the camera, and now you have a secret. Oh my gosh, we have just totally changed the relationship between ourselves and the audience. Completely. Because this is one thing, but when we go tilt, look, we've let the audience in on a secret. We have just let the audience in on a secret. It's like taking our hands, our arms, putting it around your audience and going, let's go walk. I'm going to tell you something. Possibilities are crazy once we understand that our heads can tilt and move and our eyes are separate from our heads. Yes, young man, I don't believe this is the right place for you. Yes, our eyes are different from our heads. I might tilt my head this way. I look that way. Things we have to do as teachers. Make sure kids aren't getting a little naughty in the back of the room. All right, next, our shoulders. I would like for you to roll your shoulders forward for me. Oh, yes. Yes, loosen it up, and backwards. I know there's still a lot of people not tuning in. Rena, Shrutika, Alexander, come on now, join us. We're having a lot of fun. Good, and I'm going to have you put your shoulders up. 1, 2, 3, and down, and up. 1, 2, 3, and down. Very good, very good. I noticed Reina was doing that very well. Did you all notice Reina doing it really well? That's because Reina practices in math class as a child. You know, they go, Reina, what's the answer? She'd go, I don't know. Okay. Just kidding. She's only laughing because it's true. Listen, so much happens in our shoulders. So much happens in our shoulders. One, we hold tension there. We hold a lot of tension there. It's like eagles clawing on us right there. We have to relax this part of us so that we can get maximum voice. Now I can relax. Now I have a voice that people want to listen to. So get the tension out of your shoulders. But two, and most importantly, movement can come from the shoulders. Look at that. How much can we show? Now, I'm not, Shrutika, I know you're a good dancer, Shrutika, but that's not what this is, okay? So just I know. I respect your moves. I respect what you can do, but we're just not doing that right now. But when we move our shoulders, we have the ability to go one and then the other. It's not that we want to dance, it's that we want to show that we have a fluidity in our body. Because, I'm going to point the camera down, but no, don't worry, Deepa, I got pants on. Don't worry. I'm in a public space here. Okay, so most people, when they gesture, they forget their shoulders. As a matter of fact, they keep their elbows close to the body, don't they? So everybody do this one, right? Everybody do that, yeah. Now do this. No, just kidding. I love leading workshops. I get to abuse people internationally. Okay, so here's the thing. Most people don't move their elbows. They keep it in tight, don't they? So they're hanging onto the lectern or they're doing this. They're gesturing. I feel strongly. This is my life. But what are we really doing here? You want to know what I call this gesture? Forklift. Forklift. Beep, 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 beep. Right? Right? Karima? You know what I'm saying? It's a forklift. I am here to deliver a message. Oh my gosh, why would I want that? Right, Alexander? Why would I want that? Rena? Yeah, this is not interesting to watch, is it? We want to see something that includes the whole body. We want to see something that includes the whole body, and that starts with the shoulders. So when we gesture, we have to realize that the gesture originates from here. It's almost like your arm unfolds in slow motion. Yeah, it's almost like, so again, I'm not asking you to dance. I get that. We're not here to dance, okay? Anastasia, yeah, Anastasia she was ready. I know you were ready. You were ready to get going, but that's not it. But we do use our whole body. That somewhere between our head and our hands, somewhere between our head and our hands is our shoulder. And so when we think the move, the whole arm moves. Again, it's not that you have to move all the time, 100% of the time, but it is that it's connected. So would you do that for me, please? Would you start a move that ends here? End with your hand up here in the air, but start with the move with the shoulder. Yeah, it's not hard, just like this. Yeah, it's not that it just does that, it's that it's so that our whole body is involved. It's not just that we want movement, it's that it breeds authenticity. It breeds integrity. Because people feel that if you just move your hand, that's one thing. But if the whole body moves, oh my gosh, she must mean it. She must really mean it. He must believe it because his whole body is involved. Does this make sense? Subliminal. And we can do this here on camera. We just have to adjust. If I do that in close, then yeah, I look like a nut job. But if I go further away, then I got a little possibility. Okay, so the shoulder is important. Now, next thing, I want you to keep your hips in place. Keep your hips in place, but rotate just your upper torso. Oh, man, my back is popping. Yeah, keep your hips in place. This stays put, but rotate just your upper torso. So your shoulders are moving. Excellent. Very good. Very good. Good. Now, rotate your upper and your lower torso. Good job, Anastasia. Rotate your upper and your lower torso. I forgot who was driving, but you don't need to do this one. Rotate upper and lower torso. Good. You're going to twist all the way down to your ankles, right? We forget that we can twist all the way down to our ankles and knees. Now, rotate. This is really good for you schizophrenics. I want you to rotate your shoulders one way and your hips the other way. I know. Go ahead. See, hips. My hips went that way. My hips went that way. My shoulders are going this way. And then I reverse. And then if I add my head, I can really go in 4 different directions. I call that dancing, Raminder. That's Furzy dancing. It's not very pretty, is it? I know. I hope none of you just ate, because that could cause a violent reaction amongst people. All right. Not only can our upper and lower torso move in different directions, but our hands can move in different directions.
Payment comes.
Take your arms and move one forward and one back. Whoa, how does that happen? I know some of you are thinking, why don't I do this the next time I'm babysitting? I'm going to get the kids to do this. It'll challenge them for hours. Now reverse it. That's right. I am a windmill. Okay. Okay, good. So here's the question. Furzy, you've just made us look like total fools on a Zoom call. And just to remind you, this is sponsored by Division F. Please don't embarrass us. Why do we need to do all these things? Consider, hey, Grace. Oh, that's the phrase. Grace, your home abundance. That's awesome. Consider when you have a PowerPoint. What do you have to do when you have a PowerPoint? You turn and point. Because what do most people do? I'm going to look at the PowerPoint now. What are you paying attention to? Nothing, because everybody wants to see your face. Not all of you have as good a haircut as I do, you know. Okay, so here's the deal. When we have a PowerPoint and we gesture, my arms are going backwards. We forget that we can gesture backwards. We can gesture behind us, right? Does that make sense? Anju, I just saw that. Does that work for you? We can gesture back. Even when you're seated, you could do that. But of course, it works better when you're standing. So when we're seated or standing, we can gesture backwards at a PowerPoint and still look at the audience. Gesture, look. Now watch. Gesture number 1, look. Gesture number 2. Your body can go in several different directions. That's why I'm having you twist. That's why I'm having you move. Again, you don't have to do this all at one time, not unless you walked into a spider's web, right? But we can gesture, we can look. Now watch my eyes. I can look. My eyes are going here. My body's going there. My hand is going there, and my other hand is going there. How many different directions am I going at one time, Mornita? How many different directions am I going at one time? Yes, yes, you got it. Does this make sense? When the mind is challenged, when the mind of your audience is challenged like that, they think it's more interesting. Not consciously, but subconsciously. Subconsciously, the mind is like, ooh, input, input, input. Because we live in a world of crazy inputs. Even right now, how many of you have your phones out? Right? How many of you have your phones and you put it, just underneath the camera where nobody can see it? Guilty! Guilty! So you have all these inputs. How do you keep your audience interested without looking like a crazy person? You have to give their minds subtle input changes. So even if our hands are here, our hands are here, our eyes can move, all of that works in your favor. Yes, all of that works in your favor. Here's something to think about. When you're designing your gestures, I want you to think of 3 planes, P-L-A-N-E-S, geometric planes. Does this make sense, Rena? Ajay? All right. One plane is right here. You can step in front, you can step behind. Does that make sense? There's a plane, like a glass wall, and I can come forward and I can come behind. When the hands go forward and back, it breaks the plane. When it breaks the plane, it's more interesting. Here's another plane. It's right down the center of your body. There's a right and there's a left, or your left, my right. Excuse me, your left, my right, your right, my left. When you break this plane, it's more interesting. Most gestures stay in the same plane. When you watch most people speak, go ahead, watch the video. This hand tends to stay right here, and this hand tends to stay right here. After a while, the body thinks, the mind thinks, he's not going to do anything different. I can tune out. That's what your audience is thinking. I can tune out because they're not going to do anything different. Does that make sense, Nimi and Sonali? These are the things that we have to consider. What is our audience really seeing? What is our audience really seeing? So if we use our hands and break the plane, going back, going forward, going left, going right, it breaks the plane. There's one more plane. There's one more plane, and that is up, down. There's a plane right here like a table, or it's here. And when we break the plane, when we go up and down, it challenges the audience. We don't think about that. And it's not necessarily that your hands have to move either. Watch, I'm going to break the plane that's right here, okay? Like I said, this can be here. Watch, I'm going to break this plane right here and create instant interest. When we mentor people, we are growing a tree that has no limit. What did I just do? I just expanded my camera, right? I broke the plane with my eyes. I made everybody look up. I've just created an image. I could have just gone, when we mentor someone, we're planting a tree that grows. It's unlimited. When we mentor people, Deepa, it is unlimited. But look how boring this is, right? It's not dynamic. But if I say, when I plant a tree, and I am mentoring, when I mentor someone, I'm planting a tree and it grows. By using my head, by using my hands, by using my eyes, by breaking the plane, it's not like it cost me any money to do it. You've just created an image that is powerful. Now, how about when we talk about life before Toastmasters and life after Toastmasters? Before Toastmasters, I had hair. And now after Toastmasters, I have a projection screen. I'm not saying you got to go bald, okay? That's not what I'm saying, Raphael. So the idea is you can talk about things that happen before children and things that happen after children. Before your mother-in-law moved in and after your mother-in-law moved in. Just kidding. Just kidding. I have found, secret. I have found that when I do workshops around the world, there are 3 things that are universal. Okay, Vicky? 3 things that are universal, no matter your language. 1, music. Music is universal. 2, math. Math, right, Reina? Math, that's universal. And 3, Rika, third thing that's universal, mother-in-laws. I'm just gonna leave that right there. I'm just gonna put it right there, and then you can come back to it later on in the privacy of your own laughter. So, where were we? Front, back. But there is another way. Where we started. This is where we started as a company. And now we want to see that growth. Or here to there. What's the difference? What did I just do that was different? What did I do? Example A. Yes, ma'am. This is example A. This is example B. My hand crossed my body. I know. Some of you are thinking, I think he's lost it. He's lost it. And this is why, see this guy here? See how crazy he is? This is why I don't let my kids have caffeine. Now, when the body is in place, the hand can cross the body. But we rarely see that, don't we? We rarely see speakers use their hands to cross their body. Remember this plane right here? This tends to stay here, and this tends to stay here. When you cross the plane, when this arm goes this way, interesting. When this arm goes that way, interesting. When it's crossed like that, you look like you're a nut job. No. It's the idea that we can cross our bodies. We're not stuck here. So everybody do this for me. Take your right hand. There you go. There you go, Mariana. Now I want you to pretend that somebody just insulted you and you're gonna slap them. No. I want you to take your hand and move it across the screen for me. Just like that. Now imagine, what could you be describing? What could you be describing that requires that kind of cross-screen gesture? Any thoughts? Yes, Mariana.
I would say as time passed.
As time passed. Great. Anybody else? From one side of the screen to the other. Anything else that you could show? Yes, Anju.
Journey.
Journey. Very good. Good. Anybody else?
The wind blew.
The wind blew. Good. And Happy Raphael, did you have something, sir, or were you just turning on the camera? Go ahead.
No. Over the sky.
Ah, there you go. Does this make sense? It could be anything, couldn't it? But it's not hard to do this. Now, here's the next challenge. I want you to move your hand from one side of the screen to the other with whatever imagery you like, and I want you to do it 5 seconds. No more, no less. No more, no less. I'll count it out. Ready? Here we go. Go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Some of you were fast. Let's try it again. Ready? Go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh my gosh, you just learned something brilliant about gestures. They have different durations. Most people, when they gesture, have a whoop, whoop, right? Whoop, whoop. Gesture. It starts and it stops. But a gesture could take time. Because things in our life take time. The time it takes to realize a mistake. The time it takes to rebuild a relationship. It takes time. We think that when we come up with an idea, it's like a light bulb. But sometimes it takes time. It took a while for me after I joined Toastmasters to become a leader. Now, let's see how far we can stretch that. Start with the other side now. Go from the other side of the screen to the other side, and we're going to go 10 seconds. Ready? 10 seconds. Ready? And go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What would take 10 seconds? What would take 10 seconds? I saw my father. He picked up his coat. He picked up his luggage. He walked to the door. He waved to my mother. He waved to me. He walked through the door. And that was the last time I ever saw him. Makes sense. It takes time. And you can bring your audience with you. How about this? When I got my divorce, my heart closed like a rock. But then I met new friends. And slowly but surely they would talk to me. And they would welcome me into their house and into their homes and into their hearts. And soon I realized that there was life beyond my tragedy, that I could move forward. I could not just move forward and survive, but I could move forward and thrive. Now I can give that gift to others. Makes sense. There are so many different things that we can do once we understand duration of time. All right, so back to the warm-ups. We talked about moving our bodies, okay? We talked about being able to gesture to different directions. Now, in tight, let's look at what this was. This is movement of fingers, yes? I talked about shoulders earlier and elbows, but sometimes when we're in tight on camera, it's about details. So I want you to take your hand and make it firm and just move it back and forth, and it's firm. Good, good. Now turn your palm to the camera. Move it back and forth. See the size on the screen. Good. Now try the back of it. Realize that our hands can move forwards and back with the back of the hand to the camera. Hadn't thought about that. Yeah, right? Now, Sujata, I know you think about it when you backhand your little, So I saw you in the restaurant that day. Okay. But this is when it's firm. Now imagine if you were to soften at the knuckles, soften at the wrist. Wow. Right? Does this make sense? The fingers move forward, the fingers move back. The wrist moves forward, the wrist moves back. It's a matter of creating different directions. For what reason would you want something to be that soft? Any ideas? What is one thing that might require that kind of flexibility?
Waves
Quality.
of water. Waves.
Water. Waves of water. Good. What else?
Taking
The
care of,
jellyfish.
Sorry?
taking care of a baby.
Taking care of a baby. Good.
When we engrossed in an activity and we forget about the time, we are full into that.
I like that. Good. What else? Anybody else?
Moving underwater and watching the jellyfish.
Oh, jellyfish. Good. Anything else? Lots of ideas, yes? Lots of possibilities. The idea is our hands don't have to be firm, right? When we see people gesture when they're first starting out, they're like this. And I just can't think that you're karate chopping people like, hi, yeah. You can't do that to audiences. They don't like it when they get whacked upside the head, right? Okay, so is it Namrata? Yeah, Namrata, or is that the previous name? These are the different things we have, right? These are the different qualities that we have in our hands and our wrists, just like in our heads. Tilt, look, right? Yeah, these are all the different shifts. These are all the different subtleties. That's all I wanted to cover at the beginning of this. Oh my gosh, it's the beginning, but I've gone through 3/4 of my time. So those are the different things that we can do physically, vocally. We can have subtleties with our vocals, and I've shown some of you. I've shown some of them to you already. Imagine somebody is right there. You're on their shoulder, and you're whispering in their ear. Maybe you're whispering to your baby. You're whispering to your loved one. You're whispering to your mother and father how important they are to you. I know. If I were talking to my dad, it'd be, Dad, how you doing? You know, the hearing is gone. But for most people, if we were speaking tenderly, we would sound like this, right? What you have to be able to do as you move back is sound the same. So I can sound just like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Even from a distance, did my voice change very much? Did it change or did it stay about the same?
Almost same.
Almost the same. So there are times when you want it to stay the same, and there are times when you want it to sound different. So for example, let's say you're telling a story and you're talking about a big place or a large crowd. So I go from talking to one person, I'm talking to one person here, I'm talking to 5 people here, I'm talking to a group, I'm talking to my team. There are 5 people and I'm a little louder, right? I'm a little louder and my voice a little broader. And now I'm talking to the group. I'm talking to the group. But it's not just that I'm louder. I've altered the sound of my voice as if I'm waiting for the sound to land. Does that make sense? I'm waiting for the sound to land. I'm launching my voice and it lands. These are the kinds of effects that sometimes we don't think about when we're live, but we can think about here in Zoom because the camera stays put. And ultimately, I'm alone in my room. But I can imagine. I can imagine when I tell you about a time that I spoke to a room full of people in an emergency, and I had to tell them, be calm. Be calm, everyone. Please be calm. We will all survive this together. So I can tell you that story. And I can recreate exactly what that situation was, just like when I saw my father exit the door. We can recreate those moments for our audience by adjusting our voice, by adjusting our hands, all of this, using our eyes. All of these tools are at our disposal. They are like pots and pans in our kitchen. How many different pots and pans do we need? Well, all depends on how many good dishes we can create, right? Just how many spices do we need, Vicky? Well, different times of year, there are different kinds of dishes, aren't there, right? There's different kinds of meals. So we need all the different spices because I'm not just going to cook with garlic every day. That's going to get boring. I'm going to use a little onion, a little cinnamon, a little sugar, a little paprika, a little spicy. Yes, Mariana likes that one. It's a little spicy. So we want to give our audiences as much variety as they can handle. Sometimes they'll need more. Sometimes they'll need less. You have a 2-minute speech. You use 1, maybe 2 spices. You have a 20 or 30-minute speech, which some of you do. Some of you are presenters, right? Some of you are presenters. You got to have more tools. Because once your audience sees all your tools, that's it. You're done. You're done. Once they see all your tools, you are done. It doesn't matter how good that tool is. They've already tuned it out. You might be able to use it once or twice, but that's about it. You got to find another tool. The longer you're speaking, the more tools you got to have. The longer you are speaking, the more tools you got to have. So I've already been speaking for about 30 minutes, and now I'm going to use a different tool. What we're going to talk about next are backgrounds and digital. And I know I'm not a big tech guy. I'm really not. I'm not good at tech. But what little tech I know, sorry. Sometimes people just sort of jump out at me. What little tech I know, I interact with. So if you're going to show a slide online, watch. This is my favorite. This is right here. This is why we do what we do. Now, is there anything here in my room? No, it's digital, but I know exactly where it is on my screen. Now, I kind of messed up with where my hands were, but if I go back, then I can do it. this. I give you this. Look at that. I can put my hands underneath it. I can point to it. I can gesture to it. If we hit the sweet spot this year with our company, we are going to do very well, right? We can interact with the digital. We can interact with the digital. Now you got to be careful. You can't be going like this and you blockhead. That's a good idea, don't you think? So we can do all kinds of things. And most importantly, you want to know what the number one thing is here? You want to know what the number one thing is here, Anastasi? The number one thing to remember when you have visuals, and I learned this from my mother-in-law. That, what I just did. You can be quiet and let the audience look at it. Because the audience cannot hear you and see at the same time. I know that sounds silly. And no, I'm not just talking about guys who can't multitask, all right? I'm talking about the fact that our minds can only do one thing at a time. Have you ever seen that? Somebody throws a PowerPoint up there and then they keep talking and you're like, Give them a moment. Give them a moment to look at it. Let it sink in, especially if it's a dynamic picture like this one. Right? Like when I first threw this up there, Deepa leaned in. I could tell. She leaned in. She was curious. So I'm going to give her a moment to look at it. I totally get that. Silence is golden. That's what I think every time I have dinner with my mother-in-law. No, just kidding. Just kidding. I know some of your mother-in-laws and you're like, jerk. Rika, is that how to pronounce your name? I saw you, Rika. You had, you know, Rika had this smile. See, this is her smile. Okay, I interpret. This is her smile. That's the, I think that's funny, but my mother-in-law's at the next table. And I don't have my AirPods in. So right now she's in the background going, that's not funny. So when we have slides, put them up there. Sometimes I even give my audience this. Now beware, you have to decide how long do you want them to not look at you? How long do you want people to not look at you? So you have to decide what that thing can do. And you also have to decide just what kind of PowerPoint you have. Just what kind of vision do you have? All right, so there's a lot of different ways to do that. Now, let's take it to the next level. And I know, Mariana, you can do this kind of stuff even so much better than I can. I've fallen behind, but you know, there's just a ton of things we can do. Does this make sense? So there are a lot of things that we can do digitally. This is a simple app. I mean, this is your virtual, right? This is your virtual background. It's nothing special. It's a simple virtual background. The other thing that I used was Prezi Video. And that way you can share screen without sharing screen. So there's a lot of different things that we can do that are useful to us. And we simply have to adjust our bodies. I gave that note to somebody once. You don't have to stay put, even when you have a slide. You can move around. If it's going to be this big, I can move around. I've changed the picture for my audience, right? Because as I said before, our audiences have very short. Sorry, I thought there was something bright. Our audiences have very short attention. I thought I saw a spot on the wall. Our audiences have very short attention spans. Okay. People get distracted. Oh, come on. That was funny, Vicky. You didn't like that? I wasn't even insulting a mother-in-law on that one. Come on now. Come on. Vicky's like, I've been here for more than half an hour. I expect you to up your jokes a little, Furzy. So here's the deal. Our audiences have very short attention spans, and we have to compete against that. They have phones. We have to compete against that. They are used to videos and sounds and Wi-Fi going crazy. We have to compete against that. That's a reality. Whether you're online or in person, you have to compete against that. So you have to change this picture. Not go crazy, just shift it, shift it, shift it, shift it. Change your voice up and down, move your body left and right. Gestures that change in time. Gestures that are not, see what this is? This is symmetrical. My hands are doing the same exact thing like I'm conducting. What am I conducting? I'm conducting your attention to my face. That's what we do. I know some of you are like, yes, Furzy, and it's painful. It's okay. That's why they once told me I have a face for radio. I took it as a compliment. All right, so here's the deal. Our hands can move asymmetrically. Watch. This one can do this. Well, this one does that. I can gesture. And I've done all of this. During my whole presentation, I've been doing all of this. When you watch the video, you're gonna go, oh my gosh, he's asymmetrical. No wonder he's a little unbalanced. Okay, the hands can point. The hands, go ahead, give it a shot. Yeah, the hands can gesture, sure. Because sometimes when you're one against the crowd, the one can beat the crowd. It's whatever you want it to do. It's whatever you want it to mean. You can say and do anything you need to make your audience understand what it is that you're trying to say. And ultimately, that's the goal, isn't it? How do you get your audience to understand what you're doing, especially here online? Understand that you do have an on and off stage, okay? You do have an on and off stage, on and off. You do have that distance you can enter. And the movement towards the camera is the most powerful movement you have. Write that down. The movement towards the camera is the most powerful movement you have. So the most important thing you have to say in your speech is, Mother, I love you. Mother, I love you. That's the most important thing. Then find a way to back up. Find a way to back it up just a little bit. So my dad, he left us all alone. And when my mother started to cry, I had to go to her and say, Mother, I love you. Make sense? Change the picture just before that most important line, and you have maximum impact of your lines, of your script. Great. Well, I've been talking straight for about 50 minutes. Do you have any questions? Right now, one of you's like, what was that second thing?
Someone asked in the chat about your mic. What type of mic you suggest or what you are using now?
Computer mic. I'm using a Mac. I'm using a Mac computer, like Mac laptop.
Mac laptop with an inbuilt mic, nothing attached. Thank you.
That's correct. Good question.
How did you use the Prezi thing, the slide that came on your side? Can you please explain that?
If you download and purchase the Prezi app, I think you can get a little bit for free and then you can get more. What you do is you create a PowerPoint. Create a PowerPoint. It's very easy. You can just have one picture if you want. Create a PowerPoint, and then when you go to Prezi, it pulls in, it imports. That's the technical term, isn't it? It imports the PowerPoint, and then from there, you're using Prezi just like you would any other PowerPoint. The other thing, though, if you use Microsoft PowerPoint, there's a translator app on that. Works great. When I'm presenting to my Chinese audiences here in China, wow, helpful, very helpful. Vinod, how you doing, Vinod?
Hey, Fuse, good afternoon to you. in China. Amazing. All well, all well. Amazing shirt, dear. I just wanted to ask, are you using green screen?
No,
Oh, you're not
Nothing.
using green screen. So when you were moving front and back, I could not see any disturbance in the hand movement, just as you can see now. What is the secret?
no, I've got secret. I think the important thing is that you have one color. A green screen can be any color, technically. A green screen, they use green, but a green screen can be white. So here I've got a white wall because I'm at school right now. But normally when I'm at home, you guys have seen me, Vinod and Maya, I have a black background. And so as long as your background is all one color, then you can, your virtual background, you can walk back and forth within it. I know.
Oh, so secret is thanks, Susie. See you in the evening.
Yes, Vinod.
Bye-bye.
Great question.
Thank you.
And any tip? Sorry. Any tips to do your presentation or do your speech on a mobile? Like sometimes we are stuck and we cannot actually have a laptop or a computer. So how do we take things ahead on a mobile then?
I think it's important that when you do mobile, you understand whether your phone is better this or that. And there's different things. This way, there's less background area. It's just you, right? It's just your head, your face. So if that's what you want, then that's what you do. But if you plan on doing gestures, I would do it like this. Because when you gesture, when you do it like this, then it'll actually catch your hand. And your hand is somewhere between your face and the camera. Yeah, you're in here. And you can still even do this. So it just sort of depends. It just depends on what your total goals are. Like if you wanted to say, oh my gosh, I'm here in front of these beautiful mountains, yada, 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 then have it landscape. But if it's just your face, then do it portrait. Because it's harder to get your hands. You're like in tight. Yeah, you're like in this tight. So you can't really do much. But when it's landscape, you have a little bit more room to maneuver. And of course, hold it out as far as you can. And just because you're on mobile, doesn't mean that you can't put the phone someplace. Put it up on a ledge, put it up on top of a book, and go to town, you know? I'm looking at your cameras. Most of you have your cameras in a good location. Most of you have your cameras at right about where your face is. But you don't have to be seated to do that. I mean, I'm in an office, not even my office, because my office is junky, but I've got a desk and I've got the chair on top of the desk, and then I've got a cushion on top of the chair. And then I've got my laptop on top so I can get it as close to it as possible. But usually I like my laptop even up a little bit higher. When I'm presenting at home, I have it up about this high. Then it's easier to show downward. You know, when I was trying to show you my waist movements, I had to keep adjusting because normally my camera's a little bit higher and it has a downward look. And it gives you, the audience, a feeling like in some theaters where the seats are up above, like stadium seating. So you're kind of looking down at the performer. So it's a little bit different. You know, I kind of like this angle with my audiences. And I definitely coach against this. No one likes you to talk down into the camera. It's kind of strange. There's a weird power dynamic. So you have to understand that when you place the camera, you are placing your audience. And that creates a different power dynamic. Thank you all for having me. I appreciate it. It's always great to be able to speak to people from around the world. So thank you for having me, Division F.
I'm sorry. First, I just have a question. I noticed that you have a great pauses when you were talking. How much percentage of voice and silence and pauses versus movement of gestures and so on, you think is acceptable or is a maximum on the speech to be captured from the audience? I mean, if you move too much or you speak, your voice is too strong.
Tell them, like,
what is the percentage?
I got it.
What's the balance?
So somewhere you see,
Yes, Rajan.
I'm going to mute Alexander Thomas. I think that's a great question, and I'm not sure that there's an easy answer, Anastasia. It'd be kind of like saying, how much pepper do you like in the soup?
Hello?
Some people like it more, some people like it less. And so you have to find that adjustment. I do think that it should match. The movement and the vocals should match. So when I did that movement, like, let's say, for example, that's when we have to, you remember when I did this? We have to rebirth. We have to, what's a good phrase for that? We have to keep living. We have to keep living. So in the introduction, when I talk about, hey, we all have trouble, but we got to keep going on, I'll do that. And then when it comes time to explain what happened after my tragic situation, it's there. And then at the very end, when you conclude, you say, so keep going. And no matter what happens to you, always grow. Whatever it is you're doing, you do the same gesture. You do the same gesture throughout, because the audience can't remember what you said. You have to be honest. How many of the 5 to 7 minute speeches every week do you remember? Barely anything, right? You'll be lucky if you remember 1 sentence per speaker, truly. So how do you get your audience to remember that moment? Give them something to look at. Give them a visual. Give them a visual to match what you're saying. Then they're like, oh, okay, I've seen it 3 times. All right. Thank you all very much. I'll put my email in the chat, so if you want to email me, I'm there. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thanks a lot, Toastmaster Fuzzy. Thanks a lot for all who have joined in this early morning, and I hope this was a useful and beneficial session for all of you. I would like to acknowledge the presence of our District PQD DTM Deepa and our immediate Toastmaster International past president DTM Murad. And now I'll hand over the stage to DTM Deepa for the thanks and closing.
Toastmaster Fuzzy, you actually hurt our ego. Because I was thinking that I am a techie person, and whatever you have shown over here, it's like, and you are mentioning that you are not a techie. Amazing. I think all our champion speakers have learned a lot from your presentation. And in 1 hour, oh my God, I think a lot is shared with all of us. Thank you very much. And I request your kind approval to upload the recording to the YouTube channel so that, many others will be able to use it. And thank you very much. And I'm not taking much time. Thank you, all the people, everybody who joined over here, our division directors, area directors, and past international president, distinguished Toastmaster Murad. Thank you for joining us. And yes, with that, let's close this session and move forward to the next session on pathways. Stay tuned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Val.
Bye, bye, Toastmaster Fuzzy. Thank you.
Yeah, I made Dilip host.
Okay, thank you. It's really amazing session. Thank you, Distinguished Toastmaster Anna, for arranging such a wonderful personality to teach us. Oh my God.
Yeah,
a lot of learning actually.
Yes, and
In an
so
hour.
much
Yes.
possibilities we have not even think of.
Exactly. And at Mariana, that she was showing, I mean, She was not talking much, but she was showing the backgrounds, and I mean, even I was tend to change the background. Now we have to try this. I don't know how she suddenly changed the black. She brought in that. Good morning, DKD. She brought in that black color background. Good morning, DOD.
Good morning. Are we need to stop the recording? Sorry to interrupt.
We can
Yeah,
stop and
okay.
maybe
Now we
restart.
can start another
Actually,
one.
I forgot to start the recording from the beginning and